So today I'm sharing a story, and the story is about me, and it's the journey of that spiritual path, the personal development, the highs and lows along the way, and ultimately it's a story and a journey of me continually seeking and seeking for something outside of me to ultimately realize it was within me all along. And so I'm going from this transition of being that eternal seeker to that of being the guide, the person who is seen as more of the elder, somebody who's embodied more of that mastery, and somebody who's ultimately teaching. So yeah, that's what I'm transitioning into, and this video is about sharing that story. So since childhood, I seem to have had that kind of psychic ability to be able to sort of like see future events, to have that kind of knowing. So we have these clairs, things like clairvoyancy, is seeing. The other clairs is to do with a sense of smell or a sense of hearing, and claircoherence is that sense of just generally knowing things. So I kind of had a bit of that as a child, and yeah, I think with anything, with conditioning, those kinds of things are knocked out of you. You kind of, you're told to shut up or put in your place, or you're talking a lot of rubbish, a lot of nonsense, and you kind of lose those gifts, which is sad, but these things happen, but they've obviously returned back, and I've had that kind of remembrance of those kind of childhood abilities. Early 20s, I had a near-death experience, and during that near-death experience, I kind of managed to sort of like see this whole kind of between lives, the eternal kind of cycle of life, and the light and the dark, and how it's all in unison. So I didn't quite see it as clearly as that at the time. It's only just years of processing what went on there, to actually, because it was quite scary. It did seem more like heaven and a hell kind of thing, but actually it's a whole totality. It's the light can survive without the dark, and so on, and there is that kind of raising in frequency by having those kind of polarities. So that near-death experience was something that really got me researching, psychopharmacology, the effect of drugs on the brain. Then it got me into philosophy and spirituality, and I delved down the rabbit hole of things like Buddhism and Taoism and Islam and Sufism and all those kinds of things. Just, it was just leading me from one place to another, all this mystical, magical kind of texts, and it was, every time I was reading something, it was illuminating that memory of that near-death experience. So certainly my early 20s was a good breeding ground of really soaking in all of that. And yeah, I mean, prior to my early 20s, I joined the army, and I bought my first personal development book, which was Tony Buzan's mind mapping. So it was, how do I sort of like, remember things? How do I kind of switch on that kind of super brain, as Jim Quick calls it? So mind mapping was a very early thing, and I think it was early 20s, shortly after going down all of the spiritual side of things, that Tony Robbins cassette tapes came along, and I was really obsessed with them. So that was going on, and I think again, life gets in its way, and addictions got in the way as well. So I think because of the near-death experience, my excuse or my story was that I have problems sleeping at night. So I could easily have a bottle of wine and a couple of cans of lager and cigarettes and blah 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 blah, and it was like it was self-medicating. So I struggled with addictions for a long time, a long time, and you know, they can still come and test me now. Absolutely, you know, it was certainly the alcohol, cigarettes, and this neither experience that was from marijuana. Not that I was ever addicted to drugs too much, but gambling, sex, shopping, food, yeah, the whole lot really, I suppose that's a whole different story by itself. So getting back to that's the whole seeking. Yes, the alcohol led me into rehab. That was expensive. And then from that rehab, there were so many sessions of counselling, and I decided to keep on with that counselling, and I was in that counselling for like a good 5 years. And then, yeah, there was something within me that realised that it wasn't doing anything, you know, for me, the counselling. There was more, and so I sought out a life coach, and that life coach was a lot more different, and it got me doing things, and it got me thinking about things, and it got me exploring myself more. So that was really good. And then I went to a mind, body, spirit fair. I mean, we're talking probably about 15 years ago now, or just less, I think. Yeah, we're talking probably 2010 kind of times, so 13 years ago. Mind, body, spirit fair, and this one particular lady, she has something about her energy, and I knew that she was speaking the following day, so I dropped my children off on the Saturday, went back on the Sunday, and just talking about the whole kind of law of attraction, the film The Secret, and there was just something about that that you know, I had to go out and order the DVD back in the day. It's now available obviously on Netflix. But yeah, and as soon as it arrived, I switched it on straight away. It's the middle of the day, and whatever else I had on, just had to sit and watch it. It was just so enthralling. I mean, it's funny actually, because, you know, looking back at it now, I saw a lot of like American kind of spiritual teachers, philosophers, and I'm thinking, well, I'll never get to meet any of them, but yet, you know, I've met a fair few of those, and the amount of kind of work that I've done with Lisa Nichols and met with her VIP days, or midnight partying on a dance floor kind of thing, or I've been sat in an audience and just walk behind me and give me a shoulder and head massage kind of thing. It's quite crazy how you think that you'll never get to meet these people, and all of a sudden they're part of your life kind of thing. So whoa. So yes, on with that. So yeah, I went from rehab into counselling, life coaching, and then this lady, I knew that she had something special. She was local, and I reached out, and she became my spiritual teacher for a while. She ran a VIP day, and on that VIP day, my dear friend and soul sister, we've actually literally had a past life together, Nadia, she was there on that particular VIP day. And yeah, we started having all these kind of conversations after this VIP day, me and Nadia, or Nia, as she's now known as. We had all these get-togethers, and we started having this awesome time, and these love fest and awesomeness fest, as we'd call it, you know, because it was just so awesome, you know, this bubble that we've created, this bouncing and reflecting all the awesome things and celebrating life and making these transformations. It was beautiful, and it still is, this relationship. So yes, I just reflected to my teacher at the time that, yeah, I'm still meeting up with Nia, we're having this awesomeness fest, and she goes, you do realise there is something called awesomeness fest? It's a real thing, and you should go. I was like, what? Okay. So I got straight home, typed in awesomeness fest, and actually there's one running in a few months' time. So this might have been, let's say, the February, March time, and there's one running in May, and it was in Thailand. So I thought, okay, I'm going to apply for this, book my tickets and things, and I think there's still a case of if you go to an awesomeness fest, or AFest as it's now known as, you have to be kind of vetted as such, and you know, I don't know what the criteria is now, but I was led to believe it was, you know, you have to have some kind of like entrepreneurial flair, you have to have some kind of spirituality aspect about you, and you have to have some kind of philanthropy, kind of humanitarian kind of element to you as well, which I did. I had all those three things going for me, and when it came to the interview or the telephone conversation, yeah, I was accepted, and yeah, it felt like a job interview, and actually, just as a side note, me actually reeling off my kind of journey as a seeker is a bit like me, having like a resume kind of thing. I've never intended for it to be like that, or I never thought I'd ever do that. But yeah, it is a journey that is to be shared. I'm here to share this wisdom and give inspiration along the way, and ultimately is giving permission to go out and explore, but it's also just be mindful of, don't get absorbed in it all and have to do everything, because, ultimately the answers are within you. And so my kind of sharing is just a way of thinking, okay, is there a way that I don't have to do everything that Mike had to do, because he's actually sharing some of that information, and actually I can have more of that laser focus and go, right, okay, those kinds of things do work, and yeah, I don't need to be consumed by everything and spend a small fortune, to be fair. Okay, back on with it. Yes, so I turned up in Thailand. I didn't know who Vishen Lakhiani was, who's the CEO and founder of Mind Valley, so I didn't know any of that. I'd obviously known Lisa Nichols from the film The Secret, and she was one of the speakers there, and from there I ended up enrolling on a VIP day with her, so that was pretty awesome. I'm just trying to think what else happened there. Yeah, so Lisa Nichols was certainly one of the main kind of influences from that first AFest, and that AFest led on to another AFest in Mikonos, where there was Dave Asprey from Bulletproof Coffee and a lot of biohacking kind of information there. That was really sort of like an eye-opener, and it got me moving in that kind of circle of things into the whole biohacking scene, and I'm still very actively involved in that. I have quite a few bits of kit, and then because I've just moved recently, there's a big centre there which is full of all the biohacking stuff as well. So whether it's cryogenic freezing, ice baths, infrared saunas, whether it's the Muse headgear for brain tracking, I've kind of got it all, grounding sheets, and so on and so on. Where else was I? In Mykonos, I believe it was. As that was ending, I bumped into a shaman that I'd known from Thailand actually, and I asked him. This is a few days after it had finished, and I was about to head off my plane, and I was just saying goodbye to a few people, and I said to him, "What have you got going on next?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm thinking about in the next few months running ayahuasca retreats in Peru." And because working with a spiritual teacher, I'd already heard about ayahuasca, and the second I heard about what it can do for you, it was a case of, I want to do that. And so as soon as he mentioned it, I kind of known this guy, I trust him, and I thought, you know what? And this is what I said to him. I said, I don't care how much it is and where it is, I want to make sure that I'm there. And so when he did release the information, I was there. And so, yes, I can share a bit more about plant medicines, but I'm currently talking about the whole of the AFests at the moment, or Summersfest. Another one was at Dubrovnik, and during Dubrovnik, there was a speaker on stage, and he was saying it's all very well being spiritual and meditating on mountains, but if you can't get on with your parents, what's what's that about? And I thought, well, yeah, that kind of, it wasn't quite true for me, but it's a case of, I did feel a disconnect. So I purposely, within a few weeks of coming back from Dubrovnik, I flew out because my parents was touring around Portugal in a camper van. They do that for like good 4, 5, 6 months of the year. So I flew out there, spent a few days with them, and it's the first time I properly hugged them for for many years, kind of thing. And we still continue to hug and things like that, which is why not? I hug everybody nowadays. I'm not a handshake kind of person, so yeah, if you don't know me in real life, if you do meet me, I'll give you a nice big hug. Yeah, back to the story. So yeah, Dubrovnik. One of the beautiful things about that particular one was there was a give back day, and there has been on that one, the one prior, and other ones, but this particular give back day was working in like a homeless shelter, and it was making it nicer and tidying it up and making it more, yeah, more friendly and things like that. And it was nice that there was a lot of us people there, and we was chatting to the homeless people. And there's the particular lady who was running this project. I got talking to her and I said, despite that I'm here on this particular retreat, which I had to pay for and things like that, and I'm an entrepreneur. But an earlier version of me, when I actually left the army, I didn't know what to do with myself, and I just fell foul of being able to manage money and things like that, and I actually ended up homeless on the streets. So I spent time actually living on the streets, and then I actually spent time in a hostel, which was similar to the facility there. So I was sharing that whole story of kind of that rags to riches as such, and that particular story got picked up by the tabloids in Croatia, and it was even referenced on the breakfast TV. So yeah, it inspired people to just keep going, and the whole kind of personal development, spiritual journeys was also referenced in that. So I found that very, I was giving, and not only was I giving at that give back day by doing manual work and making a place a nicer place, but also it was my first kind of, yeah, I have something of value to share, and actually just that one share, went quite viral as such in a particular country. So I was quite pleased with that, and I've gone on and shared that story in entrepreneur kind of settings, and again this particular video is all about my personal spiritual development, but I do have a business journey as well, which is another story. Another AFest was in Ibiza. That was all to do with love and relationships. So they started to theme them, or they did obviously for the biohacking, but the love and relationships was a beautiful 4-day AFest. Speakers like Esther Perel, John Gray from Men Are From Mars, they was there. John and Missy Butcher was talking about their relationship, which is a beautiful one, and also Life Book, which looks at kind of things like this life mastery that I've mentioned in other videos. So that was quite good. But yes, since the ayahuasca experience that I've now been on, I was now guided towards doing the 5-MeO DMT. So after the give back day there was a shaman walking around with a sage, and the guy next to me, Gregorio, he had a picture of a toad on his t-shirt, and the shaman kind of giggled to say, oh, that's what I do for a living. And I kind of knew exactly what was going on in that conversation, so I didn't necessarily stalk her, but I did sort of like, made sure that I got to speak to her at the lunchtime and say, oh, this 5-MeO DMT, do you do that? Could you do that? Could you run a ceremony while you're here? She goes, yeah, actually, yeah, give me a day or so. I can make it work. I'll get you a price. So I went along for that, and that's, yeah. Again, I'll come back to the whole plant medicines. Another AFest was Costa Rica. That was shortly after the Peru, so yeah, Ibiza was after Costa Rica. But in Costa Rica, it was very beautiful. There was like a shamanic yoga on the beach every day, and that was one of my highlights. And I did actually shoot a video back at the time, so a good 7 or 8 years ago. But yes, we was merging with the waves. We was honouring the sands. We was bringing in that energy, and I just knew at that time that there was something special about this guy, this teacher, and I just knew that I wanted to sort of like learn how to do that. And yes, these breadcrumbs, I started to, off these AFests, I started to do these different adventures. Another AFest was in Sardinia, and I took my daughter to that one, and people like Ben Greenfield was there, who's been voted one of the best personal trainers and prolific podcaster and biohacker, so I religiously follow him. And also Jim Quick was there, who my daughter follows now, and also Jay Shetty, and she she still follows Jay Shetty and Jay Shetty's wife, quite actively on the podcasts. So yeah, very significant, these AFests. So off some of the AFests, like Costa Rica, for example, that led me onto a journey that a month or so later, I ended up going to Iceland. Actually, it was December, so it was a few months later, with this other guy from Costa Rica, and we was camping in Iceland, and yeah, it was just an adventure, and even the locals in Iceland were saying, "Are you crazy? What you doing there?" But yeah, it's because this one guy had done mountaineering, and he wanted to sort of see whether, or Jonathan is his name, he wanted to see whether, he wanted to be running these kinds of retreats. He wanted just some volunteers to actually run that. So yeah, I was in that kind of bubble, so I put myself forward to do that. Another adventure was a darkness retreat with Sashi Saluna, who's a well-known tantra teacher, and so as part of that tantric Taoist kind of tradition, darkness retreats is something which was very deep, meaningful, kind of like dying, and that whole kind of, there's a bigger story, and I did actually shoot another video regarding that, so check out my YouTube channel for that one. But yes, what I'm saying is that these AFests just open up doors. Stuart Ross, who I met at the very first AFest in Thailand, he started running business retreats, seminar days as such. High Growth Summit was actually what it was called in Nottingham, and I started to attend them, and so I then met another person there who then started talking about men's circles, and that led me on to the whole Mankind project. And it's funny because since the first Thailand, I'd become friends with Facebook with lots of people, and I'd noticed that a lot of people, or the females, was all running, but there was going off to these goddess retreats and these priestess trainings, and I'm thinking, that's great, but what is there for us men? And so I've been looking for that, I've been seeking that, and all of a sudden that answer came via sort of like, AFest, via going to, visit Stuart's events, via somebody in the audience, making those connections. Martin was a connection there. So yeah, beautiful how it all unfolds. As well as the AFest, there was also Mind Valley University, and so I popped in briefly for Barcelona. I'd also been there for Pula in Croatia and Estonia, and again, just chatting with people there. And Andy, who's a good friend, and I have like monthly kind of chats with him, he started talking about non-violent communications. That inspired me to actually join that and to actually do a training in that and to practice that. And yeah, it's just one thing leads to another, and again, I've talked about AFest and how that got me involved with the Mankind project, but now so I've been involved with the Mankind project and doing fortnightly groups. The Mankind project, and the friends and brothers that I met there, they introduced me to things like the UK festivals, so Butterfield and Medicine Fest, and I'm going to Into the Wild in a few days' time. It's just beautiful to be hanging around with those brothers in these kinds of places, and not only was it the festivals, but they introduced me to peyote ceremonies, another plant medicine. They introduced me to foraging. So again, it's just you know, moving from one circle to another circle to another circle. It's just been such a beautiful kind of journey. And then amongst all of that, the amount of different kinds of other events, workshops via things like Eventbrite and Facebook, you know, so I'll go away and spot that somebody's doing a crystal healing workshop, or psychic surgeons, or how to actually channel light languages. So these kinds of things that I'm quite passionate about. Shamanic practices. So I've been doing a lot of those kinds of workshops, trainings. Yeah, it just keeps unfolding and unfolding and unfolding. It's been very time consuming. But in a good way. It's you know, it's taken on a life of its own. And I've been living in this house for like 9 years, and it's currently in the process of being sold because I've moved to Devon now. But yeah, it's taken its time to sell because as I moved in, it did need some work doing, but I decided not to do the work on it, and instead I invested everything into traveling the world, working with the best teachers, not only those teachers but coaches as well. You know, the amount of different coaches that I've seen, or healers, the different kinds of readings that I've had. Yeah, I have really consumed myself in discovering myself, you know, finding the answers and trying to find that elusive, what is it that's missing in my life? Now, the thing is, as I say, you know, there's nothing ever been missing. I am complete within myself. You know, I've realised that I've spent, you know, a good chunk of time, you know, I mean, certainly I referenced back 2010 was a pivotal time, and 2010 I actually went to a health farm in Mauritius, and during this health farm there was a guy called Neil, and I'd love to reconnect with him, but he was a teacher from Vedanta. He was attached, I think, believed in London, Vedanta, who had research, but I think he was originally from like New Zealand. But that, yeah, went into the whole kind of stories of Krishna and how things have evolved there. And again, you know, it's brought back my passion from those early kind of, you know, early 20s. So yeah, as I say, I've been around this since the early 20s, but more so over the last 13, 14 years of really exploring at quite some speed and quite fast-tracked, really, some of the stuff that I've learned, and some things have been stacked along on top of each other. Sometimes, you know, I've left one retreat but booked 3 other kind of you know, sessions from there, and so it has been a bit intense, and so sometimes I've learned, you know, needed to learn how to actually slow these things down. So that's a kind of a whistle stop, and I haven't really gone into the plant medicines, but yes, you know, the whole ayahuasca was 3 ceremonies in Peru. It was funny because the t-shirt I'd worn and I seem to have lost, but it had the snake at the bottom, which represents fear. It had the puma, which represents the present moment, and it had the condor, which represents the bird that flies highest to the heavens, so more of that enlightenment. And so each night in that particular order, I actually had, you know, the shadows, the fears come up, and then the present, and then the enlightenment and future kind of visioning with the ayahuasca. And as I say, the ayahuasca was saying, right, Mike, you know, your next good adventure is going to be with the 5-MeO and the DMT. And DMT, for those that might have come across it, is known as the God molecule. And so taking the DMT, as soon as you blow out, you're expanded. You really are expanded. And for me, you know, it was there's still shadows and the words that I used was like I was in like a big orgy with the world. It was a case of everything was whoa, yeah, it was tactile, it was whoa, it was blissful. But I knew that there was more, and I just roar out 3 times, and then all of a sudden, pierce the veil as if I was in like a rocket ship on speed. It just straight through. And then the next minute I was like a golden Buddha, and I was just sort of like channeling my life story and making all these kinds of remembrances of, this is what happened as a child, and this is what happened for this particular reason, and I was sharing this story, and I had even changed, my voice had changed. It was very channeled, which I've learned how to channel in the past, and I might, at some point do a channeled video as such. It's going to stretch my comfort zone, but it's something that I do have an availability to do. But this 5-MeO, it was next level. It was awesome to actually do that. It was really plugged in, and coming back down from it, I didn't want to forget it, kind of thing. I'm trying to integrate it, and I'm still integrating, and like with everything, it's a journey of integration. It's remembering how beautiful and pure we are. And the thing with the 5-MeO was there was just being able to see things from that helicopter perspective, looking down at my life and going, isn't that funny? Isn't that ironic how I keep still bumping into this, bumping into that, and not learning it? Isn't it ironic? It's funny, it's comical, and talk about this cosmic joke, but to be able to see life without the actual distractions, distortions, the conditioning, the shit that we put ourselves through, and the things that we hold dear. We don't need to, it's just being able to look at it and laugh at it. Life can really be that simple, and it's remembering that, and that 5-MeO, beautiful medicine. I loved it, and of course, it's something else that I could get addicted to, keep going back for that kind of stuff, and getting those kind of peaks. But ultimately, it's a message to say, and it's a teacher plant to actually say, this is how beautiful life is, and somehow, I need to be bridging that, which I am. So I feel happy that I have actually met it, and I am continuing to actually meet it. I'll never get to that point, where I'm living at that kind of point all the time. I doubt very much. It's a very, very high vibration to be at. But I'm keeping those feet in both ground. In that foot in kind of that awakened light and space, but also grounded, and knowing that I have functions to do on this planet. I am a human. I've incarnated to actually to make this difference in the world, to understand and know myself, to fully accept myself, and then also to merge with the creator as the creator. So there is a journey here. And it's about finding that balance, and so being that seeker has given me these peak kind of experiences. And yes, I might not have fully understood it and honoured it at the time, but the more I'm integrating, the more I'm actually thriving more, and accepting more, and coming home to myself more. Whew. What else haven't I covered? Yes, so the on the beach doing the shamanic yoga teacher training, now known as quantum flow. I went during the lockdown period. I'd paid to actually go to Bali to actually do the quantum flow, but because of lockdown, it was now done online. That was really great because it was like, Wampa, who's the quantum flow person, he was in the front room all the time. It was a case of, the amount of videos that was put out there, the amount of Facebook Lives, the amount of work that I was doing with others. It really got me energized. It is a beautiful modality. It's something that I've taught at festivals. I've taught at entrepreneurs groups. I've worked one-on-one with people. Really unlocks a lot of things. Again, that was another spin-off from the Mind Valley. Now learn something else, and it's been a beautiful, blessed life, and even things like from quantum flow, the wild leadership, being in Costa Rica again with Wampa, learning about other people, what they're doing. So that led me on to do the Hoffman process, which was another beautiful kind of process. And then recently, or not recently, but getting back from Costa Rica, Sam Isadora was my first Tantra teacher, and then obviously doing, Data Street with Sashi Saluna, done other kinds of workshops, but recently be doing the ISTA training, International School of Temple Arts, level 1 and level 2, just did level 2 only in the last few months. Yeah, lots of training, lots of diversity and lots of wisdom and knowledge that I have available to share. And it's funny because, some of when I talk about polarities, some of my other videos, that is from that tantric kind of teachings and things. So without me actually mentioning the word tantra in previous videos, I have been sharing that kind of wisdom philosophies and beauty. So yeah. It's like I've actually, something within me went out, discovered all of this, and now has brought it back in order to share. It's like those fables of that person leaving the hometown, going out, discovering something, and then coming back to share it. That's what it feels like. It feels like, I've always had this as part of my life purpose, to actually go out and find these answers, and it's beautiful that I did it on the premise that I went out to find myself, but myself was always within me. Yeah. Another thing I didn't mention actually was after Ayahuasca and Yasan, who was doing it was the shaman there, I reached out to him a few months later and I said, what is it that I can be doing next? Again, this seeker, and he listed out 5 different things. I'd love to find that email, but one of them was like Chinese medicine, there's something else, and then in the middle was Vortex healing, and something else. And I did a little bit of research on each, but there's something with the Vortex healing which I just thought, yeah, this really resonates with me. And I looked at the Vortex healing and all the different classes that was available, and some of them down on this flow chart, it was kind of like a 2 pages of flow chart. So there might have been sort of like, 20 different classes that was available at that time. There's now probably about 35, and it's well over 3 pages. But at that time I was thinking, oh yeah, that looks good, that looks good. But reading it, you had to do something at that time was called the basic Vortex class, and it's now called the foundational, but basic just sounded basic to me. And again, talking about some of the other stuff that I had done, so I'd actually done the Reiki level 1, Reiki level 2, Reiki master, Reiki grandmaster, and now my ego's saying, do I want to go back and do a 5-day basic course? But there was something inside me saying, okay, yeah, let's be humble about this. Of course you can learn more. It's good to sometimes go back to basics and learn something. Learn things from different perspectives, which is of course very true. So I went to London for this 5-day basic class, and it just blew out anything that I'd ever done in the way of healing modalities. And yeah, I was, I'm not saying hooked, but yeah, I wanted to sort of progress onto the next, and then onto the next, and onto the next, and as I say, there's now sort of like 35 different kind of classes. I don't know that's the exact number, but I've probably done 31 of them. There's not many that I haven't done. Yeah, and that's just been such a beautiful journey. It's helped me to really awaken to divinity more, to actually to integrate, to be able to sharpen my psychic abilities. Yeah, it's something that I find a lot of beauty in and a lot of relaxation in. It's good for opening up kind of ego positions and identities, and to be able to actually channel into that, to awaken what actually is the actual core wounds as such behind that. So yeah, I've really enjoyed the whole of the Vortex experience journey, and yeah, I do one-to-one Vortex healing, and in collaboration with other Vortex healers in Totnes. There is monthly Vortex healing classes there, and other workshops I'll be running which do involve Vortex healing, as well as some of the other wisdoms or modalities like psychic surgery, quantum flow. So yeah, kind of watch this space of what I'm actually going to be doing as offerings in the future, because I'm like, this is like the 33rd video out of 50 that I've recorded, and there's going to be something more magnificent that's going to be unfolding. And of course, as I say, I could share another video which is just to do with business, so those that are entrepreneurs and wanting to actually be introducing more of that kind of spiritual kind of aspect, more of that awakened outlook, more of that wanting to give back as well. I can certainly do business coaching, or I have been doing business coaching. And so that has kind of been a whistle stop kind of like 40-minute video so far of just some of the things, and I'm sure that I've missed out quite a lot of different bits of avenues that I could have explored. But as always, on the videos, if there's any questions, any comments, feedback, please reach out. I'm happy to share more things if there's something that has wet your whistle and you want to know more about. Please reach out, and I can potentially shoot a smaller video on just speaking into that subject. So yeah, please do like, share, subscribe, and I will see you on the next video. So ciao for now.